1. And Tumor Exarch skin render. And there you see him on your screen. You have Chris VanMeter on the left of your screen, David Sharfman on the right.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this pod deck in action. Now, pod decks, people built them a lot to try and beat the Cobblade decks. We'll see how they fare here. Now, Chris does have those 3 mental missteps. He's playing Jerry's list, so...
Yes. Mental Misstep, not as exciting as Spellskite might be here. Mental Misstep only actually stops Bird of Paradise in Sharfman's deck. And whereas, after Cyber, it does stop Duress. But Sharfman actually has Surgical Extraction and Memoricide in his sideboard. Wow. He really wants to get cards out of the game. Or rather, whoever actually handed him his deck really wanted to get cards out of the game. So there, the bird comes down on turn 2, along with a fetch land. This is actually one thing that when I saw this deck before, I was a little leery of, was the fact that it plays 3 copies of Tectonic Edge in a 2-color deck that doesn't have dual lands. It does have 4 Verdant Catacombs, but the value of those Tectonic Edges in a deck like this versus, the mana consistency you get in a 2-color deck that doesn't have access to, Overgrown Tomb or whatever.
Right. Huh.
But,
I mean, I think you could probably play a couple edges, but 3 might be 1 too many.
I mean, I know that in my Bladebreaker deck, which is a 2-color deck with 10 dual lands, I play 1 Tectonic Edge. All right, so is that a Sylvan Sylvok Replica?
Sylvok Replica. Not necessarily the greatest card to have here, although I guess you could peg an Oblivion Ring.
Oh, he didn't leave green up.
Yeah.
He doesn't actually have Lotus Cobra in his deck. So
wow, that's interesting. That's a card that most people would not.
Well, it's also very odd with the number of fetch lands that he has. I mean, he has a green-black fetch and a white-black fetch and a green-blue fetch, which he has not really any use for other than thinning his deck.
That is kind of strange that there's no Lotus Cobra here.
So Day of Judgment takes out the Bird of Paradise and the not-so-hot Sylvok Replica. Sharfman goes and fetches a Swamp.
Look at the sideboard. So there's just no reason for the...
They are just thinning fetches.
Weird. And we counted it up. He's not just like missing.
Someone on Twitter pointed out that Sharfman played green-black pot at Nationals, so this is not his first rodeo, as it were.
Thank you very much, Drew Chandler. Appreciate it. So the board is 4 lands for Sharfman versus VanMeter's 4 lands Jace.
And both players drawing. Sharfman in a bit of a bind here. He's doesn't have any action down. All of his early plays were destroyed by that Day of Judgment. And VanMeter already going to town with Jace. And now Gideon. Oh. So Sharfman does have Beast Within in his deck, so he could Beast Within that Gideon and potentially dismember it, or if he happens to have the one Skin Shifter, or Skin Render rather.
Okay, and that's exactly what happens. He turns Gideon into a beast.
And what will this beast... Will this beast die this turn? He's a Spellskite that can stop the beast from beating down, at least.
But that Jace, I mean, the problem with the green-black deck is it really has no way to get card advantage unless you have Birthing Pod. That's the thing about most Birthing Pod decks, really, is you have to have the pod. And green-black has no good way to manipulate its cards, so you just have to kind of draw it. And if you don't have it, it'll be a big issue. And as is the case here, he's just drawn a couple happenstance cards, one of them being Spellskite, which is okay, but certainly not phenomenal. VanMeter lays another land. Can activate Colonnade, and it's time to go aggressive. I like the play. You just don't give the deck time to get back in the game. It'd be easy for a lot of players to just rest on their laurels here, but
you definitely just want to get the damage that you can. Get the there's a Dismember,
all right, which is acceptable. Like you trade your land for their Dismember. Get it out of their hand. Now, you could probably guess that David has quite a few reactive cards by the fact he's not really doing much, but still.
Cadaver Imp.
The Imp himself, bringing back Slovak Replica.
Sharfman Zek is just limping along in this game. Like he is
playing the way Sharfman likes, limited style.
yeah, it really looks like he's just playing a limited deck right now.
I mean, Sharfman is known for his limited prowess. So.
He's
he even has the mismatched swamp in there. Gabe Blanciano asks on Twitter if Sharfman is playing Smallpox. No, he's not playing Smallpox. Just Holy Spells or Dismember, Beast Within, Go for the Throat, and of course Birthing Pod. So Chris in a pretty plush position here. He just has to make sure not to mess it up. Let's see. Chris shuffling through his cards. It's got so many options. A luxury I'm sure Sharfman wish he had right now. Alright, Chris finally chooses to go for
a Squatter.
Always a safe choice.
He went for it.
Very, very obviously very risky play. But I mean seriously, Chris probably has a hand loaded with counter magic, wants to make sure he can deal with Sharfman's board position. Wants to keep his Jace around. That'll do nicely at battling that Cadaver Imp. And there's a Squadron Hawk. So he lays 2 Hawks. And I think he's got 8 cards. So he's going to have to pitch one. It's probably the play to cast a Squadron Hawk there. Discards Island and ships back to Sharfman. Sharfman trying to figure out the best way to make this work.
What can I do with a Sylvach Replica, a Cadaver Imp, and a Spellskite?
And an Acidic Slime.
Oh, he plays an Acidic Slime.
He's going to be the Rube Goldberg of Magic decks.
The funny thing is, he's actually sort of assembling something, a board position that is, not embarrassing at least. Like,
yeah, I mean,
that gets countered.
If this were a grab bag draft, he would be in a pretty good position right now. But against like a bunch of Squadron Hawks and Jace Beleren, full hand of cards from Cobblade, it's going to be rough for Sharfman, I think. Maybe. If you think, the scary thing is, if Sharfman manages to resolve a pod, he's actually in pretty good shape.
Oh yeah, I mean, pod fetches, any number of things. A Massacre Worm, like.
Of course, the issue is he's got to get the pod to resolve.
He doesn't really have that much in the way of exciting guys to sack at the moment. Like his 3s only go up to 4, which goes up to Obstinate Baloth. You can get Solemn Simulacrum,
and Tumor Exarch.
None of which are particularly great in this position.
You can metamorph your pod and speed yourself up a little bit.
Yeah, that's possible. But metamorphing your pod means you need to go get another 4.
Right. And I mean, Sharfman's at 12 life. You can't afford to pay too much on those pods either, right, if he's not paying retail.
He's kind of getting some beatdowns.
And let's see, life total's 12. David Sharfman, 20. Chris VanMeter. Board position is 2 Squadron Hawks and a brandly minted Consecrated Sphinx.
That's not good for Sharfman.
Alongside Jace Beleren, the old Sphinx Beleren combo.
Yeah.
Sharfman has a Sylvach Replica, a Spellskite, and a Cadaver Imp. A very ragtag crew. Can these Lost Boys pull it out? We'll see.
So, I mean, Sharfman could just, cast a Shield Tread here. It wouldn't really be all that impressive against the Hawks on the opposing side, or that Consecrated Sphinx. I mean, if he has a pod here, he can actually pod and go get Metamorph copying
Consecrated
Sphinx. But That's not an exchange that I think he wants to do, because the opponent can do a lot more with low mana.
He has to Shieldred.
Just cast Shieldred.
All right.
It's like, all right,
jump block with Cadaver and bring it back.
I mean, Shieldred isn't the most impressive against an opposing army of Hawks.
No, not even a little. But, you know, it's far from the worst card Sharfman could have had there. Dismember Spellskite in his upkeep. So Spellskite goes down, and then I think maybe we'll see Into the Royal here. Oh, sorry, an end step kills the Spellskite.
Yeah.
And perhaps we'll see an Into the Royal or something.
I mean, that ability is stacking anyway, regardless of whether he Into the Royals.
Right.
But this gives him the option of Into the Royal.
Right. You want a Royal sometime before Sharfman's next turn anyway.
Right, of course.
So he doesn't rebuy his guy. He's going to go for a Preordain. Ships them both to the bottom, not satisfied with his full group of cards. What are you digging for if you're Chris? Maybe he just doesn't have Into the Royal?
I mean,
not that you're too concerned about that. Is that...
That's another Dismember.
Dismember on Sylvok Replica, so Replica goes down.
Now he's an Oblivion Ring.
And now he's going to ring away the Shieldred.
Yeah.
And David Sharpson's board position just got dismantled.
Kind of worse than it was a moment ago.
I mean, he tapped out for his 7 mana first pick, and his opponent had the answer.
And there's still a Consecrated Sphinx in play.
Tim Gillespie on Twitter is curious what 6 drops Sharfman is playing. Looks like he's got Massacre Worm, Worm Coil Engine,
Brutalizer Exarch.
Oh, Brutalizer Exarch, sure. Let's see. All right, Chris plays a Colonnade tapped, just in case his board position wasn't threatening enough, and dares David Sharfman to find an answer.
And I'll draw some cards. So Sharfman at 3 life. Not looking like Worm Coil. That can just resolve, right? Doesn't do anything.
Yep, Worm Coil resolves. And then just gonna ship the turn, and that should be that.
Well, I mean, there is the Cadaver Imp who can jump block.
Oh, he played the Colonnade though. So.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. This game is just over then.
Yeah, I think that's it. Unless Chris is scared of attacking for some reason, but I can't imagine why he would be. If Sharfman has 3 mana, I can't tell if he's got 2 or 3 mana on tap. If he's got 3, I guess Beast Within is a possible thing.
Well, if he has 2, he has to go for the third as well.
Sure.
Probably would have go for the third of the Celestial,
Sphinx quite a while back.
A bit.
Yeah. All right, yeah. Sharfman just concedes.
All right. So going on to sideboarded games, how do you think things change up here?
All right, let's see. So Chris VanMeter is going to, Torpor Orb is a card that's generally good against these pod decks because they're trying to get a lot of interactions from potting their guys up the chain. You play some Torpor Orbs, and they're really just turning one guy into another with no bonus effect from their creatures. Mental Misstep is a card that's good against decks with Birds of Paradise, so that is an option. And granted, Birds and I guess Duress after sideboarding, both things that he could nab.
Stingerfling Spider definitely needs to come in. Take care of that Consecrated Sphinx. I mean, that's why it's there. I'm certain that's why it's there.
I mean, it's sweet.
Yeah.
It's pretty sweet. Celestial Purge is maybe an option for Chris VanMeter. Day of Judgment, probably a pretty reasonable option. Deprive, potentially. Really, you just have to find ways to deal with Birthing Pod. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And I could see Chris really shaving any number of cards.
One of the interesting things about Sharfman's list, this green-black version, is that the blanking of come into play abilities isn't even necessarily that. I mean, it's obviously powerful, but it's not nearly as crippling as it is for some decks. I mean, being able to go up to Shieldred anyway,
right?
And having Massacre Worm, while the come into play ability is important, the end of the battlefield ability rather. The fact that it has this ongoing life loss effect, that's actually pretty relevant too.
And just a 6/5, right?
Right, it's just a giant creature.
Worm Coil obviously, has game text and is a 6/6. Let's see. So I'm trying to figure out how you sideboard with this deck. So Duress comes in, right? And the Stingerfling Spider comes in. So that's 5 cards.
I believe that's true.
The cards I would cut are probably Obstinate Ballast,
I think some number of your removal spells you probably want to go.
Probably go for the throat.
Just go for the throat. Kill Sphinx.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Dismember is the
Yeah,
worst.
I don't
one.
think you can afford to remove Go for the throat.
No, you definitely want to get rid of Dismember. So yeah, you probably got like 2 Dismembers, an Obstinate Baloth. Do you want Nighthawk? I guess it interacts with Squadron Hawks.
Nighthawk is fine. It's not unamazing.
Not
Skin Render's pretty bad.
Skin Render could probably go.
It only kills at Mary Angel. It's Squadron Hawk.
How much do you like Spellskite here as protection?
Spellskite, I mean, it depends what you think Chris has. I mean, being able to protect your big guys, I think, is actually pretty important. You want to be able to go up to the expensive creatures without and have some ability to protect them from things like Oblivion Ring. So, I think I'd probably keep in Spellskite.
Yeah, so I think I'd probably count like 2 Dismembers, Baloth, Skin Render, and
Dismembers.
Yeah, 2 Dismembers, Baloth, Skin Render.
I think I actually might be able to cut all the Dismembers.
You just got all the Dismembers.
Well, you're bringing in Stingerflint Spider, so you have, I guess, and you have Tectonic Edge for Colonnade.
Yeah, I guess you can just cut all the Dismembers. I wanted to keep one more removal spell, but it might just not be necessary.
You have Beast Within as well. You have Beast Within, Go for the Throat, and Spider.
Yeah, I mean, unless if you no, I guess you want to keep it in replica so you can hit Oblivion Ring. Yeah, okay, I like that sideboarding. From Chris's side, he just has a ton of cards he can bring in. I don't know what he wants to take out here. I mean, I think you want your Hawks. You probably want a Mirror Angel. You want Consecrated Sphinx.
I think Mental Misstep is your weakest card.
Misstep.
I mean, granted, after sideboarding, you're fighting against Duress, so it becomes
and the birds.
I mean, misstepping a bird is fine, but like it's nothing like misstepping, a lot of the other possible cards. I mean, it's also if you don't have the misstep right away when they play your bird, your misstep's often just like pretty terrible. I think Day of Judgment's very good. I don't know about Torpor Orb. Torpor Orb's sort of weird here because Torpor Orb is a fine card, but like, what do you? I mean, are you taking out your Squadron Hawks? Is that part of your plan?
I kind of like Hawk here because you normally want to keep up a lot of mana to deal with Birthing Pod. So like, you go like turn 4, play Hawk, leave up Mana Leak. Normally, I like to cut like Mana Leak in these kind of matchups where you want to tap out a lot, but you really want to deal with Birthing Pod. Like it's very important. I mean, it's also possible. Flash Freeze comes in over some.
Yeah. Flash Freeze is certainly a reasonable choice.
Yeah, I'm not really sure Chris is going to board here. I can see him going any number of different ways.
Yeah.
I mean, you want all your Jaces probably, right? Seems like card advantage is key
right.
here.
Jace, the green-black deck puts very little pressure on you. I mean, you look at that game, and Jace was huge. Jace was what was able to, get Chris so many more cards that was able, so he was able to establish that Consecrated Sphinx relatively quickly.
Can you cut the one into the Royal?
I mean, into the Royal, I think is relatively important to be able to deal with the big creatures and things like, Birthing Pod sticking.
Wow. It'd certainly be interesting to see what shows up in Chris's deck this game. Could be... I wouldn't be surprised to see anything out of the sideboard except for probably Core Firewalker. So, and Sharfman, I think, just bringing the Spider and those Duresses. And we'll see. Sharfman had a pretty bad draw last time, so we'll see how much that switches around here.
To be fair, it's the sort of draw that Birthing Pod decks are susceptible to.
Right. You don't ones without Birthing Pod.
When you're playing a deck that has a bunch of situational one-ofs that relies on a particular card to get value out of them, and you don't have that sort of cornerstone card of your deck, you're going to be in trouble.
Right. Yeah, I mean the pods are so crucial to the strategy, and even then, I mean, you can just draw like a mishmash of cards that just don't do anything together.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons that I think I actually worked for a bit on a green-black Birthing Pod deck myself. And there were a lot of things I liked about it. But one of the things that I didn't like was exactly that that you have so many cards that do so many different things, and if you don't draw your pod, you're in pretty bad shape. And that's one of the reasons that I like the blue pod decks a lot better. Just in general, I think that having Ponder and Preordained to be able to dig for your key cards, makes those decks substantially more consistent.
I agree with that. All right, so Sharfman leads off.
Sharfman goes
Birdie.
Lambert. VanMeter does not Mental Misstep.
That's pretty much the start. Sharfman wants to see only get better if Sharfman plays like a turn 2 Birthing Pod. VanMeter leads on preordain. I think preordain is pretty interesting how it changed, because it used to be you seldom wanted to cast it on turn 1 in Cobblade. You wanted to wait till turn 3 or so. But without Stoneforge and Mystic around, that's become a little less attractive. And a lot of players I've seen going for it on turn 1 instead of their
with Stoneforge, you wanted to play it to find Stoneforge.
Well,
Hawk
I mean that too.
But you're also mulliganing to those.
I think I saw a misstep in Chris's hand there. So
he could have just drawn it.
He could have drawn it. He definitely didn't take it off the preordain. So either he just drew it, or he chose to not misstep the birds.
Maybe he's attempting to play around direct. I can't imagine that if I had a misstep, I would not misstep a bird.
Yeah, it just seems way too good. Such a high value play. Especially because so many people's hands just crumble when you deal with their Mana Accelerator. Alright, so Sharfman goes for Beast Within on the island.
Jeez, upkeep, kill your land.
Alright,
that is sweet. Here you go, have a beast. Getting very aggressive here.
It's kind of neat. Now, that signals to me that Sharfman likely has another Beast Within in his hand.
Well, I mean, I think that even if he has just a single Beast Within, if he has, just basically anything that can, blank that. Yeah, there we go.
Like a Spellskite.
So, I mean, now, he's gotten, ahead on mana, at least. But, I mean, if Sharfman has, an acidic slime next turn.
Sure. Yeah, really put Chris behind. I mean, on the play, I think Beast Within their land is totally reasonable. Looks like Chris drew a Torpor Orb there. Plays a land.
I mean, it seems like Sharfman's draw does not have Birthing Pod yet again. Oh, maybe I spoke too soon. there's Birthing pod for Sharfman. What do you pod away here?
You probably...
He hasn't played a land yet.
So what do you get is the bigger question.
So it looks like VanMeter is potentially responding to Birthing Pod.
Or not.
He is not.
So I think Sharfman's hand is Beast Within go for the throat.
It looks like
definitely go for the throat.
So it looks like he's probably fetching the Sylvan Ranger. Yep.
Yeah, Ranger's a good man.
And this is we were talking about this before. The Sylvan Ranger versus Viridian Emissary. The Sylvan Ranger here lets him do this immediately and doesn't force him to wait until next turn and potentially have access to double black if he needs it now.
Right. And you can just play it out, and trade it up. And you'd come into play tap next turn too, So it's even a little worse. All right, so there's Torpor Orb. So Chris gets in the orb, but David could turn that Ranger potentially
into a Silhouette
replica and deal with the orb. Of course, then it would hurt his chain a little bit. But.
Well, he has Spellskite in play as well, so...
Alright, so he's going to crack the replica, and... Yes, Silhouette replica. It's possible he could also turn the Spellskite into a Cadaver Imp back the Spellskite, and replay the Spellskite next turn.
Or get Glissa, kill something, get back any of them.
Alright, kills the Torpor Orb right now, so no Into the Royal shenanigans can occur. And... Chris.
So Chris really needs to be able to deal with that Birthing Pod now that his Torpor Orb is gone.
Yeah, notably Chris doesn't have, say, a Revoke Existence or something. There's
Day
a
of
Day
Judgment.
of Judgment. All right.
That's not the best answer, because any creature that Sharfman draws now is still pretty big deal. But it looks like Sharfman might just not have a creature.
Beast Within my own guy. Start my chain.
Yeah. Beast Within my land.
There's
imp.
the Cadaver Imp.
It's the imp.
And bring back Silhouette replica.
That's Tyrion Lannister right there. The imp. Do you just not know Game of Thrones at all?
No.
Oh man. You're missing out.
I know I'm missing out. I need to read it pretty badly. Or at least watch the show, one or two.
Yeah.
Or Entwine. All right, so he turns that into a Tumor Exarch, which will look at Chris VanMeter's hands. And he sees Mental Misstep, Gideon, Jura, and 2 other cards. I think maybe another day. I think it's Misstep, Day, Gideon. I can't see what the card all the way to the left is.
Looks. Oh yeah, I can't tell either. It looks like a land.
Might be Scalding Tarn.
Yeah, I think it's Scalding Tarn.
Could probably get in. Yep, which he does. And passes back.
Now being posted on the side of this Shipping Dragon banner. It'll be in yellow paper.
So the Cadaver Imp is showing his worth here.
Yeah, I mean the imp seems like a sweet card here.
Yeah.
And let's see, the 4s he can turn into.
What did he imp back? He got the was it the Spellskite or the Sylvan Ranger?
He got the replica.
The replica. Okay.
And
that makes sense.
And the 4s he can turn into in his main deck are Metamorph, Bailoff, which we think is cut, Skin Render, which we think he's cut, and Tumor Exarch.
Yeah. And Tumor Exarch is pretty sweet here.
But Exarch is in play right now, right? He just used it to look at his hand.
Yeah.
So now he can turn the Exarch into
a
5.
slime.
Slime is his only target. Or Stinger Fling Spider, but we don't really want that one right now.
Probably don't want a Stinger Fling right now.
Alright, turn the Tumor Exarch
And
into
slime you.
Slime, set you back on lands.
So Slimer will kill
Glacial Fortress.
Glacial Fortress.
Alright, slime time, that goes away. Probably potentially, well, he knows he has a Day of Judgment. Maybe you don't play that Spellskite yet.
You really don't want to play out your Spellskite.
Yeah, so even if he days, the Spellskite can turn to a 3, which is Glissa, Nighthawk, Pilgrim's Eye. So plenty of options here.
And if he doesn't get Dade, he gets to go get a Wormcoil Engine or a Brutalizer Exarch. Probably Wormcoil Engine, given that he knows his opponent has Day.
David was very nice writing his deck list down in mana cost order for us, which is actually just a lifesaver. Oblivion Ring comes down on the Birthing Pod. Might be a little too late. We'll see.
So the slime going to town.
Chopping away Chris's life total. Drops him down.
And Sharfman, because he hasn't had to use any of the cards in his hand to actually do any of this. It's just all been from the pod in play and whatever creature he might have.
There's Sylvok Replica.
That's an interesting choice. I don't know if I want to expose my replica to a Day of Judgment that I know my opponent has.
Well, he can get back to the Birthing Pod by killing the Oblivion Ring, which is a pretty big deal.
Oh, that's true. That it was an Oblivion Ring. Okay. Your point.
And so I think Chris is pretty much forced the day here. Otherwise, he's going to untap with Pod and Acidic Slime.
Right, yeah. So... yeah, that's... boom.
Nope, she's not today. Series for 2.
And are we finding Worm Daddy?
Seems very likely, unless he boarded it out for some reason.
I can't imagine boarding out Wormcoil in this deck, not even in this matchup.
All right, cracks his Acidic Slime and fights Brutalizer Exarch.
Okay, interesting. He
going to kill one of Chris's lands. Put it on the bottom of the library to be precise.
That's reasonable.
And then next turn he can turn it into Shola Dread. Plays the Spellskite too, okay. Opening himself up a little bit to Dave, but Dave's got a full grip of cards, so even if he gets Dave, he could turn something else into a larger threat pretty easily. And Chris VanMeter just concedes. He wants to make sure he can finish this match in time and does not need to see the end of how David Sharfman is going to brutalize him. So, heading into game 3.
Was that really brutalizing with the Exarch? Wow, jeez. Are you Rich Hagen over here? What's going on?
A little bit of LSD, actually. So, he was literally going to get brutalized.
Literally going to get brutalized. I don't think this word means what you think it means. So,
all right. So David Sharfman probably not shading anything on the draw.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that there's all that much he would want to switch up based on the fact that he's drawing first. I could see Chris wanting some amount more counter magic on the draw. Mana Leak, for instance, definitely gets better when he's on the play.
And Mental Misstep might get a little worse if you're on the play. It can snag a Mana Leak, I guess.
Well, Mental Misstep's the same. Mental Misstep can hit Duress, can hit the birds. So I think I probably wouldn't change up too much. I mean, I haven't seen how Chris is sideboarding, obviously, but yeah, if I had boarded out some number of mana leaks, I would likely board them back in for game 3.
And would you go up to 6 counter spells for mana leak 2 flash freeze?
I don't know. I mean, it seems pretty clear that he needs to have answers to Birthing Pod. He needs to be able to, I mean, you know, even better than you know, Oblivion Ring what's in play is stopping it from ever hitting the table.
Sure.
So I mean, I would certainly want the flash freezes, and I think having the full assortment of counter magic may be the way he wants to go. Mental Misstep is, you know, while it can protect his answers from duress, you know, in a lot of cases, so can mana leak, you know, if he actually just has the mana. So we didn't see Squadron Hawk from him in that game, so it's entirely possible that Squadron Hawk did come out of the deck when he put it in Torpor.
Yeah, and I mean, Chris also cast a couple preordains, I think, and didn't cast any Squadron Hawks, so they might have just vanished.
Mm-hmm.
See, yeah, sideboard for Chris has got to be really difficult here. That's the one thing I just have no idea how to do. I played a lot of Cobblade, and I don't even know exactly how I would.
Yeah, I have not played this particular matchup at all. But
it's always hard to battle the pod decks because they're like 2 totally different decks, so they're not. They have pod.
Right. I mean, they can just do so many different things. They can attack you from so many different angles.
Right.
The fact that, you know, you really want to start Birthing Pod, but you can still just die to, you know, little dopey creature beatdown. The version of Green Black Pod that I actually was messing with a bit myself was it was actually just a Green Black aggro deck that had some number of Birthing Pods in it.
Oh, interesting. So you still have like the aggro plan.
It had Skin Shifter. It had Abyssal Persecutor.
Oh.
And Abyssal Persecutor, you can sacrifice to Birthing Pod to, you know, you get a couple hits in, then sacrifice the Birthing Pod, and put Ob Nixilis into play, then play some lands and kill that. So I never really got around to testing it because, you know, I was working on other stuff.
Right.
But I had brewed it up, and it seemed kind of sweet to me. So
turn 1 preordained for Chris VanMeter. Well, there you go, everyone at home. You have the technology. Try out. And if you next 2 weeks of Standard, no more big events. Try out Green Black Birthing Pod with Purpose Persecutor and Ob Nixilis. Ob Nixilis is just a card never had his time, man. Looks so tempting. There's Birds of Paradise.
And it does not get misstepped.
See a Jace in Chris's hands. And looks like he plays the tap calling it.
And do we have a Birthing Pod from Sharfman here?
Probably wondering if Chris has an Oblivion ring waiting in the wings.
Well, I mean, it's actually also, we know, but Sharfman doesn't know that VanMeter has no Spell Pierce in his deck, right? So that's one of the very interesting things about the differences between some of these Cobblade lists is because, you know, you play around with Spell Pierce. A lot of the versions of Cobblade have been cutting back or removing Spell Pierce entirely, and, you know, a lot of people are just so used to playing around Spell Pierce when they're playing against Cobblade. So Sharfman sacks to go get a swamp. Right. Jace for VanMeter puts him up a card.
All right, so let's see what Sharfman opts to do here. Just thins his deck a little bit. All right.
This looks like a slime if he's sacking right now.
Oh, sliming his land would be awesome play for Sharfman here.
Sharfman with mismatched lands.
But you had the deck at the last minute. You're allowed to have mismatched.
I suppose that's true.
Maybe that's just his Lucky Mirage or Urza Saga.
So Acidic Slime destroys the Colonnade.
All right, now Jace will help Chris VanMeter continue his land drops, but the tempo is a pretty big deal.
Well, I mean, this particular the Green Black Birthing Pod deck that Sharfman is playing, I mean, it's not aggressive. You know, it's not really attacking your life total all that much. So being you know, on the back foot a little bit isn't that big a deal. But what really matters is when it is able to establish its key board position cards like Birthing Pod. Right. And really, by like Birthing Pod, I mean Birthing Pod.
Exactly, Birthing Pod.
Much like Birthing Pod in that they are Birthing Pod.
All right, so David Sharfman has no play, just kills the Jace.
Yeah, and VanMeter can just day him. Just day it all right now. Stacking them all up, ready to scoop them.
And there's the day, packs them in the yard.
He knew it was coming. And
Spellskite.
that's not very exciting.
Not the follow-up David Sharfman was wanted.
Yeah. And here we have the deck without Birthing Pod.
Yeah, game 2 we saw it with. Oh, there's Gideon Jura. Yeah, Sharfman really needed a pod, and he didn't find one. Spellskite has to attack. Attacks Gideon
Get
for
him.
0.
I mean, VanMeter can actually just... I mean, he could try and go for killing Sharfman in a couple turns here, but he knows that Sharfman's deck has removal in it. He could actually also just kill Spellskite. So even if Sharfman draws a...
That's what I would do.
Yeah, I think the play here is kill Spellskite. Yep.
Probably just continue to build your board somehow. Kill Spellskite. Oh, or not. Pass it back to Sharfman.
He killed it.
Well, he killed it, but did not cast anything else.
Right.
I thought Chris might go for something else. Apparently not. All right, Preordain from Chris VanMeter. Sees land. Not sure on the other card. I think it's blue. One on top, one on bottom. Likely keeping the blue card. Island. All right, activate Gideon. Attack you.
Gideon gets in there and go for the throat. Attempts to take out his throat.
Planeswalkers still have throats, it turns out, and
Sometimes.
only when they feel like it. Gideon has a very short neck, but he can extend it when necessary.
Kind of like a turtle in that way.
Yeah,
He's sort of like a calcite snapper, except much more powerful.
Royals back the
With
Gideon.
the kicker.
Draws Consecrated Sphinx.
And that's a Vampire Nighthawk. It's not very scary.
And Chris is pretty quick to dismember that.
That goes down. One of the interesting things about playing against Birthing Pod decks is that creatures don't have a sort of threat level commensurate with their actual threat. Because just being a creature and being in play makes them inherently threatening because, well, they can turn into anything else at any
Right.
moment.
Could be anything. All mystery boxes. All
Uh-oh.
right. Gonna metamorph a Consecrated Sphinx.
This could get ugly. I mean, Chris has so many more cards than Sharfman. So many more land. He can just
Are we gonna have
draw
a Sphinx
trigger.
duel? All right, I draw my card. Would you like to draw any cards?
Sharfman is
Why,
drawing.
Yes, I would like to draw some cards.
And Chris,
Chris has 2 triggers on the stack.
it looks like he may... All right.
All right, draw 2 cards. 2 triggers on the stack for Sharfman.
This is the deadly dance of the Consecrated Sphinx.
Oh man. Did you think it should have been legendary? Was it unavoidable?
No, this is sweet.
You think this is sweet? Okay. There's Oblivion. All right, so it gets Oblivion Ring. Chris opts not to draw. Oblivion Ring's the mere Consecrated Sphinx, the evil Sphinx. And there's the Myria Angel, followed by Scalding Tarn getting a bird. Yeah, at first I really felt like Sphinx should be legendary, so that could never happen. But after seeing it, it's like, that's kind of a rare thing. It's kind of cool to see how it plays out.
Like, people play it wrong all the time. Like, it's actually a bunch of opportunities for one player to play much better than the other. Like a lot, like in a lot of situations, people will just be like, oh, well, I'm going to draw cards too, and you're like, well, it's my turn. I now have 10 mana untapped, and you have 2 mana to fight me. I'm just going to keep drawing until I kill yours, and then you. Like,
right, and then
you're just going to have to discard.
Or if I hit my Sword of War and Peace or something.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, like LSV. So go for the throat, attempts to take out the Consecrated Sphinx. LSV said that he played against someone who they were in a Sphinx war. His opponent drew 20 cards off of it or something, and LSV played Grand Abolisher, and then went Sword of My Sun Titan, tap your only non-white guy, 30 you.
Ouch. Very nice. Yeah, you gotta be careful with those Consecrated Sphinxes. Did allow Sharfman to reload. It was really his only play, but board is heavily favoring VanMeter now. Angel and 2 birds.
It's been pretty heavily favored for him for a while, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
He has a lot more resources than Sharfman has had pretty much all game.
And Sharfman just had nothing going on.
Yeah, I mean, Sharfman got 3 creatures destroyed by Day of Judgment, and stalled on 3 land.
Torpor Orb, just in case.
Sharfman is pretty much dead here.
Alright, Sharfman at 7, VanMeter at 15. Sharfman dead next turn, and he concedes. That's
and there
it.
you go. So
Chris VanMeter.
Now advances to 6-0, I believe.
6-0.
And David Sharfman down to 5-1 with his Cadaver Imp deck borrowed the morning of the tournament.
Still, Chris needs 2 more rounds before he can start drawing in, though. 10-round tournament.
This is a
so-
long